Ago Tevachra Boisai. Okay, Rabbi Isai, here we go. We're top of Samach Beis Amud Aleph. Put on your seatbelts. Today is a Gadata type of style Gemara. What I mean by that is it's very, very easy. We're talking about the beautiful things in the Beis Hamikdash with a little bit of a Gadata. We'll call it a Gadata. Omer Rav Yosef. So yesterday we had this whole discussion. Maybe I'll bring this over here. We had a discussion about the size of the Mizbeach, and what came out was by Shlomo HaMelech's generation, it was 28 Amma by 28 Amma, and later on they made it 32 by 32. And the question is why? Omer Rav Yosef Leivhanu Desanyo, we learned Vayechinu HaMizbeach HaMechonoisav Shigiu L'Seif Midaisav, that the Anshe Knesset Agdoila, there were many, 100 and I forgot, 100 and something, 180 maybe, Anshe Knesset Agdoila. Some of them were Nevi'im like Ezra and Nehemiah, and they were able to get to the bottom of it, something which Shlomo wasn't able to. So Shlomo had his Mizbeach at 28, they were able to enlarge it to 32. Ask the Gemara, how could that be? V'oksiv hakol b'chsav miyad Hashem alai, his skill that David HaMelech says, Hashem gave me everything, he gave me all the measurements, I know it all. And if he knew it, he gave it to Shlomo HaMelech. How's it possible Shlomo HaMelech didn't know it? El Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Kro Ashkech V'darash. We can learn this from a pasuk. Vayomer David Zehu Beis Hashem Elokim V'zeh Mizbeach Lo'ila Yisrael. Says the Gemara, we could darshan and make a hekesh between the Beis Hamikdash and the Mizbeach. Ki bayis, it's just like the house of Hashem, in other words, the Heichel. Ma bayis shishim amo, af Mizbeach shishim amo. The Heichel was 60 amma long, so too was the maximum of the Mizbeach could be 60. And they went 32, they went easy. But they realized, they darshan the pasuk, it could be up to 60 am of the Mizbeach. Says Gemara Bishlam Bayis Mikra Tzurah, I know where the Beis Hamikdash was, the second Beis Hamikdash, because you could see the foundations of the original Beis Hamikdash. So they put it down right there. El Mizbeach B'no Yad. How did Klal Yisrael know where to put the Mizbeach and Bayis Sheni? How did they know the place? There's a number of answers. Omer Rebbe Lazar, Ro Mizbeach Bono. You see, I'm telling you, it's Mamash Agadata. They saw the Mizbeach Bonu. You know that in Shemayim, there's corresponding Beis Hamikdash, corresponding Mizbeach, corresponding Yerushalayim, right above Yerushalayim. So they were able to see the Mizbeach up there. It was built. Umichal Asar Agadol, and Michal, the great Sar, Oimedu Makru Olav. He was bringing Korbanos to Hashem. And in that exact spot, they just lasered it from the top to the bottom and they put it down. The ashes of Yitzchak. Now we know Yitzchak wasn't shechted and he wasn't brought up as an oila, but it's referring to the ashes of the ayol, of the ram. So they saw those ashes and they realized that's where the Mizbeach is supposed to be. In the entire Beis Hamikdash, there was the smell and the fragrance of the beautiful Ketores. And when they came there, they were able to smell the fragrance of the Evarim. There were 3 Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, who came up from Gaul. They went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. One said a nevuah about the size of the Mizbeach. And one gave a nevuah on the exact placement of the Mizbeach. And the third one gave us a halacha that what? That you could bring karbanos even though there's no Beis Hamikdash, as long as there's a Mizbeach. Similar, but a little different. Rabbi Elazar Yaakov says the 3 Nevi'im, Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi, came up. Echad Shehid Lem, he's going to put 2 of the Nevuahs that we said before into 1. And therefore he's allowed 1 more Nevuah and he uses it for something completely different for a Sefer Torah. Echad Shehid Lohem al Mizbeach, Val Mekoyim al Mizbeach. One said a Nevuah about the size of the Mizbeach and the placement of the Mizbeach. And the other one said that you can bring karbanos even though there's no Beis Hamikdash. And the other one said that the Torah is written with a special Ktav Ashuris like we have today in the Sefer Torah, because originally, says Rashi, was written with Ktav Ivri, which is similar. You know, if you ever saw the Dead Sea Scrolls and that sort of thing, that has Ktav Ivri. It's different than what we have today. Or Rashi says that it started out Ashuris, we forgot it, it went to Ivri, and then it was brought back to Ashuris. Keren. So the Gemara says like this: there are 4 things that are essential, and if you don't have them, the mizbeach is possible. Keren, the corner horns, the kevesh and the ramp, the yisoid, and the bottom base that we have on the mizbeach, the ribu, and the fact that it's square, ma'akvim. If you don't have that, then it's possible. Midas arkoy, midas rachboy, midas kamasai. The size is not ma'akiv. It's not essential. A ma'akiv. Because it says the word hamizbeach. Hamizbeach means that it's ma'akiv, it's essential. Kiur, l'rebi. The kiur. Kiur means there was, over here. So you see this decorative things over there, that one, and there's a michbar. So the Gemara says, so you tell me that it's essential to have these depictions and this artwork on the side of the Mizbeach. It says ha-Mizbeach. You told me anytime it says ha-Mizbeach, it's ma'akiv. They're not arguing really. Just Rebbe says, Rebbe says that it's plain, and Rebbe says it has some sort of lattice depiction in there. This says Gemara yes, it is ma'akiv, and I'll prove it to you. The famous story, I said it already. I said it from the Masechet Sukkah, but here it is: that there was a tzedukah that went on top of the mizbeach, and he was pouring the yain, the water, the nesachim of sukkahs, and instead of pouring it onto the mizbeach, he poured it on his feet. He made a big chayzik out of it, as if he's washing his feet. So the Gemara says that the kol rugmu kol besragim, they took their esragim, they're holding it, and they pelted him with it. The Yerushalmi says that he died from it, but doing that caused the mizbeach to have a dent or whatever. It broke the mizbeach and it became pogum. So they brought a big lump of salt, and they patched it. If you patch it with salt, it's not kosher. Just as long as it doesn't look bad. If you don't have these 4 things, you don't have the horn, the ramp, the base, and that it's square, it's possible. We see soivev is ma'akiv. Torah Rabbanan. Ezu karkov. What's the karkov? So we're going to use this that we used the other day. This is Moshe Rabbeinu's mizbeach, that which was 5 by 5, and the Gemara wants to say that between the purple horns, the outer part of the mizbeach, that's karkov, depicted in gold. That's where the Kohanim used to walk. Ask the Gemara, it makes no sense. That's not where the Kohanim used to walk. The Kohanim used to walk in the teal area, in the bluish, the light blue area where it says 111. And the place that the Kohanim used to walk is Amma. As the Gemara but it seems like that the karkov was on the wall. Actually, you could see it over here, even in this picture. It was on the wall right over here, not on the top of the mizbeach right over here. We're talking about the rooftop, but it says it's on the side of the wall. That's where the karkov was. There's 2 karkovs. One for beautification. One. So it was this one for beauty, and then there was this one, the blue one. But the blue one, Rabbi Isai, is shaloi nishtarku, that they shouldn't fall off the mizbeach. So what do? Let's say you have a bunch of tiles. The blue ones were lower than the gold ones. So when the Kohanim are walking on the blue, if they were to go out of, sometimes you drive down the highway and you hear that sound. They put these cuts in the highway, so if you fall asleep, so they had that also. That was invented in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. It's a little lower, and when you come off and you're barefoot, it stabs your toe or your heel, and you know not to go any further. Midas arko, midas rochba, midas kamasa ma'akvim. The length, the width, the height is not ma'akiv, as long as it's a perfect square. Omar Rebbe Money, who is this? Omar Rebbe Money, says Rebbe Money. It cannot be less than this mizbeach of 5 by 5. Or we had a machlokes, 10 by 10, 5 by 5. Right? Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda says 10 by 10. V'kamo, Omar Rabbi Yossi v'amo. Says Rabbi Yossi, you know how big Moshe Rabbeinu's mizbeach was? 1 amma. Now, if I were to ask you, what's pshat and what he's saying? How could it be an amma? Everybody knows it's minimum 5. It's probably 10 or 5, but not 1. So what's the answer? Everybody made fun of him. It's mefurish pasuk, it has to be 5. He said, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's 5 from the center. Center to the end, 5. Center to bottom is 5. Total of 10. Okay, it's either 5 or 10, but it's not 1. Maybe the pshat is, we got music. Gewaldig. So maybe the pshat is, not maybe. Look at this, the black spot over here. That's 1 by 1. There's nothing left. You have the corners, you have where the kohanim walk, and then you're left with 1. Says Gemara, Margaver Rabbahu. Wow, Abaye, you're a big Talmid Chacham, Yoda my Kamina, you understood what I said. That's exactly what I meant. And those who made fun of him, he says the Gemara Daf Samach Beis on the top. Whoever made fun, he called them Bnei Keturah. You're the kids of Keturah. This week's parasha, boy, say kiss from Hashem. Avraham Avinu married another woman by the name of Keturah. So you have the sons of Avram, and then you have Yitzchak Yaakov. This is not the same Zera Avram. It's Zera Avram, but it's not from Sarah, it's from Keturah. We have a similar story that Reb Tarfon was learning Torah with his nephews. Now these nephews weren't talking. Like you say, you give a Dvar Torah and everybody just looks at you like this. They weren't talking. So he decided to wake them up. Havyasa came to Reb Tarfon, says, and what does it say in the Aleph over here? V'lo yahaver amri midi, says the Agoyz V'tziyunim. Rashi also says that in a way. He says, Kadeshi Dabro. Akaponim, he tried to wake them up like I do this in Shir. Sometimes I make a mistake. You think I'm making a mistake? I'm trying to wake the Olam up. Sometimes I skip a few lines to wake the Olam up. Look at me there, Tarfin. Everybody knows the pasuk. Shmo Keturah. So he's stuck in Yochani instead of Keturah. Who did they wake up? To fix the Balkaira, everybody loves to do that. Ariel, Keturah. This is where people usually tell me, turning on sponsors. Which reminds me, I have to do the sponsors. Ariel, Keturah. So he said, Kari Aleim Bnei Keturah. Exactly. Says the Gemara, Omer Abayo Bar Huna, Omer Rav Chama Bar Guryo. Another more Agadah. Every single morning they would put wood on top of the mizbeach. Now I could show you how they did it, but I want you to notice what kind of wood. What was the shape of the wood? It was a perfect square that was an amma by an amma, but only this thin. Let's see the video. It was 1 amma by 1 amma. It was very thin, like the machash godesh saw. What's that? Here, take a look at this video. When you buy wheat, and it's full. So use something like this, literally like this. It's very thin, and you go over the top with the thinness. It's able to make it nice and smooth. Not like in this video where it's left over has a little heap over there. So again, it's this wide, an amma by an amma, square, but this thin. That's the wood that they would put on the mizbeach every single morning. Sorry. Omar Yirmiyah, Ba'ama Gduma. Listen, since it must fit on this small area of an Amma on top of this Mizbeach, so let's make it a smaller Amma. There's two types of Ammas, an Amma of 6 Tvachim and an Amma of 5. Let's make it from an Amma of 5 Tvachim. Ba'ama Gduma. Omar Yirmiyah, how do the Sanya, but it says in the Brayso, Alo Eitzim Asher Alo Eish Asher Al Mizbeach, it says by Ariel. Not on, it shouldn't go out in the center. It shouldn't come off the sides of the mizbeach. But the sides of the mizbeach are 5 amas wide each side, so you could do a regular amma of 6 tefachim. Don't worry about the 5 tefachim amma. Not awesome. Kevesh hoyel l'deroimo shel mizbeach. There's a ramp, and the ramp came off the mizbeach, but on the southern side of the mizbeach. Oirech shleishim u'shtayim aroichav sheish esrei. It was 32 long, 16 wide. Remember the sugi we had 32 plus 32 equals 64, but the mizbeach itself was only 62. Why? Because the as we're going to see in the Gemara, the kevesh actually went on top of the soiviv and the yisoid. Karen mizbeach was on the southern side of the mizbeach. How do we know that it was on the southern side of the mizbeach? Omer Rav Huna Omer Krav v'shachat yisoid ayerech hamizbeach zefayna. You should shecht on the thigh of the mizbeach. Safayna. In other words, the feet of the mizbeach are in the north. The thigh feet are in the north. Upanav badari. The Gemara understands that the ramp to the mizbeach is the face. The face is the top. The face is what you start out with. That's what you see first. So the kevesh, the ramp, is what you go on first. That's the face of the mizbeach. That should be in the south. Why? Because the yerech, the thigh, is in the north. As the Gemara, who said maybe both the thigh and the face are in the north? Look, when a person lays down, his face is facing one way, and his feet are facing in another direction. Maybe you should say that the person is sitting up. When a person is sitting up, his face and his feet are facing in the same direction. But it says revuah. Revuah is the language of laying. He's laying down, not sitting. But wait a minute. The word revuah comes to tell me that the mizbeach is square. How do you know the mizbeach must be square? From the word revuah. You can't say that he's laying down. If it would just say that it has to be square, it should say meruba. But it doesn't say meruba. It says revuah. Revuah means that he's laying down also. But it doesn't say ravos. If you want to tell me that he's laying down, say a different word, ravos. It says it interesting. It should say ravos, but instead it says revuah. So from the word revuah, I learned two things. First of all, it has to be square. Second of all, it's in a laying position. In other words, that the ramp is to the south and the feet are to the north and in a different direction. But another Tana brings it from a different way completely. That what? That we're talking about that the ramp is in the south. The Sanya. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, we're talking about the outside Mizbeach. The ramp, like the steps that go up, the ramp faces the east, Kadim. And the Gemara says, any direction you take, you have to face towards the east. As the Gemara Ve'emos Smoil Mizrach. Maybe the ramp is in the north. How do you see from here the ramp is in the south? Maybe the ramp is in the north. And when you make a left turn, if you're going up, if the ramp is in the south, in the north, and you go up the ramp, you're going to go towards the west, towards the east. Go up. The ramp is in the east side of the Azara. The north side of the Azara. So you go up the ramp. It's in the north side, and you make a right. You make a left. You're gonna hit Mizrach. Yeah, should I say it again? I'll say it again. Maybe the Gemara says, "Who told you the ramp is in the south?" Maybe the ramp is in the north, and when you go up a ramp that's in the north, facing south, and you make a left, you're gonna hit east. You're gonna hit Mizrach. Says the Gemara, "Lo so gadaydo." The Torah by Chizki Yam Shas Shlomo. So you had this thing called Yam Shlomo, right? There's a famous sefer Yam Shlomo. So he had a pool that was situated on top of 12 bulls. And the pasuk says, Shloisha Oymen al Shnei Masar Bakar, Shloisha Poidim Tzafayna, Ushloisha Poidim Yama, Ushloisha Poidim Negba. So the pasuk says it in counterclockwise. It starts off Shloisha Poidim Tzafayna, north, and instead of going east clockwise, it's going counterclockwise west. Ushloisha Poidim Yama, which is west. Ushloisha Poidim Negba, and then you get to south, and then you come to east. So it's going counterclockwise. In other words, when you're facing every turn that you make, you should be making to the right. You're facing the mizbeach. You're turning. You're stepping sideways to the right the whole time. Says Gemara, but wait a minute, you can't learn anything from that. From that pasuk, we need to know the story that Shlomo Melech made 12 bulls and he put the Yam Shlomo on top of it, a whole pool. Says the Gemara, you're right. The actual pasuk can eat for itself. Okay, but it says the word poinim 3 times. From that I learned that every direction that you take, when you have a fork in the road, a yid gate rechts. A yid gate rechts. If we would have made a rechts instead of a links, we would have been in Yerushalayim or something choshev. Instead, we ended up in Eilat. No, it's your fault. We went left. No, we were trying to get to the wife. Shal Reb Shimon ben Yosi ben Lekunya es Reb Yosi. Oy mo Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Did Reb Shimon ben Yochai say Avir Yosh ben Kevish LaMizbeach? Did the Mizbeach look something like this, where there's a space between the actual ramp and the Mizbeach? What do you mean? What do you mean, Reb Shimon ben Yochai? What about you? Let's figure it out ourselves. It says, it says the word basar and dam in the same pasuk. So let's learn. We can learn meat from blood. Madam is rika, av basar is rika. You throw blood, you throw meat. In other words, if you have to throw the meat, obviously there's a gap. Who says there's a gap? Maybe you're supposed to throw it even though there's no gap. Think about it. Is there a giant fire there? Is it very hot? Yes. So if it's very hot, how are you going to place something nicely and easy into a fire without getting burnt? You must toss something into, you have a big bonfire, you toss it, you don't put it in. Mimela, if the Torah says that you should toss it, obviously it's referring to something else, not logic. Logic will tell you have to toss it. I don't need a pasuk for that. Saying toss means stand on the ramp and toss it over the gap into the fire. Yeah, we said this. There's no other way. And it has to be that there's a gap. Rav Papa says another svar, just like blood. When you throw the blood from a kli, it goes in the air and there's ground underneath it. So too, when you throw the meat, there should be ground underneath it. Now, how is it ground underneath it if you're on top of the ramp and you throw it on the mizbeach? Obviously there's a gap, like a skylight that goes all the way down to the ground. And when you throw the meat over the gap, it passes over the ground. So this is just the guy throwing the meat, but it's not so exact because he's passing the foul line. But boys, take a look at this. There's 2 small ramps on the side. The kohen goes up the mizbeach here, the laser, and goes onto this ramp because this is the only way to get to the soivev. This is the area that's not on top, it's not on the bottom, it's smack in the middle. He goes all the way around here, does the blood. Now he comes back. Notice what happens now. He goes down this side ramp, this shortcut ramp, and he's on this ramp. Now what does he do? He does not go down and around. What he does is he's on this side, he just crosses over the ramp, goes down the small ramp, boom, and he's able to pour the shirayim on this corner right over here. Beautiful. So says the Gemara, There were two smaller ramps that came out of the main ramp. From one you can get to the side, and from one you get to the soiviv. Yisoid is where you pour the shirayim. Sorry, Mark. Hold on. And even them, here, let's take a look over here. So the small ramp is not even touching the large ramp. It's distant like a hair breadth. You have to be able to put like a rope around the Mizbeach and fit it in there in that gap. I learned the same exact thing from a different word. It says it's square. Now, if you add the ramp to the Mizbeach, it's not square anymore. It's a weird shape. I need both of those psukim. Why? Because of Rachmana Saviv, that you should be able to put a rope around. I would think that the Mizbeach is round. Saviv, put a string around it on this round Mizbeach. Interesting Mizbeach. Because of Rachmana Revuah. No, it has to be square. Because Rachmana Revuah, but if the Torah would just say that it's square, maybe it means that it's a rectangle. It has 90-degree. What's it called? 90-degree walls. What is it? Angles. 90-degree angles. Thank you. But it's not square. Oh, for that I need both psukim. Because Rachmana Saviv, that it's perfectly square. Each wall is the same size. Rabboisai, have a good tavach, have a gewaldige week. L'chaim u'l'shalom. Have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDAF.com.